High in the hills of southwest Poland. This area is called Silesia, isn't it? Lower Silesia. Okay.
It's a difference.
Where is Upper Silesia?
There is no upper. No, it's Silesia and Lower Silesia.
Oh.
It's more to the south of Poland.
Right. Okay.
And it's upper because it's a little bit more.
We're getting a little geography lesson here right now. We're getting more information than we asked for. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We can begin with our continuation of the songbook Kalyana Kalpataru of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Song number 2, Upadesa, song number 2, Mana Tumi Bhalobasa Kamer Taranga. This is a song about kama. Kama means desire, it means lust. And here in our translation of, I believe, Dasharat Sutta, it's going to be translated as lust. But the broad meaning is simply desire. And it's, of course, contrasted with prema. And the definition is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Atmendriya priti vangsha karebali kama Krishna Krishnendriya priti icha dhare prema nama. Kama is the desire to please one's own senses, and prema is the desire to please Krishna's senses. So they're both desire, but of very different qualities. My dear mind, we have another prayer to the mind. You are so fondly attached to rolling to and fro upon the waves of lust, abandoning your sensual material lust. Just render service in pure spiritual lust, aprakrta, and thus extend yourself into the realm of transcendentally uncommon pastimes. Bistaraho, aprakrta ranga. Oh, suddha-kama, that's spiritual lust. Suddha-kama seba, kori. Next, this is a short song, 3 verses. Second line, second verse. It is not possible to quench the thirst of this temporary mundane lust. Anitya, jadiya-kama, santi-hina, abisrama. For its nature is to continuously create a disturbing situation. Santi-hina, abisrama. Abisrama. Okay, the B in the transliteration here, in Sanskrit it would be a V, but in Bengali B and V are basically the same, pronounced as B. So it's Vishram in Sanskrit, and then the opposite, Avishram, Bengali, Abishram. And even if you do get the things you lust after, you cannot keep them. Tabu tahanahi pau. For such temporary things will give up your company very soon. It's a funny way to put it. Paileo chare tabashanga. Yeah. They will give up your company. Not that you will give up its company. It will give up your company. It will renounce your company. And the third verse, which is twice as long as the first verse. My dear mind, you faithfully render service to this mundane lust, but I see that it actually cannot give you anything substantial. Rather, it simply burns my entire body with miserable dissatisfaction. Charo, micha-kama, how Tumi, satya-kama. No. So then just give up all your false material lust and just accept the true spiritual lust. Spiritual lust, satya-kama. By worshipping the Cupid of Vrindavan. Bhajo Vrindavanir Ananga. Ananga is a name for Kamadeva or Cupid. As some of you know, anga means, well, it can mean limb, as in a part of the body, but it can refer to the whole body, which is so many limbs. And then ananga is without a body. So Kamadeva has no body. And why does he not have a body? Because he was burned to ashes when he tried to disturb Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva looked at him like in some comic strips or cartoon or animations with his laser eyes. And Kamadeva was burned to a crisp. We say in English, burned to a crisp. But unfortunately, that's not the end of the story. It would be great if that would be the end of the story. It would mean there's no more lust in the world. But then what did Kamadeva do? He entered into every body. And therefore every body, anyone who has a physical body experiences the presence of Kamadeva in the body. Clever, isn't he? Yeah. So Ananga, so then just give up all your false material lust and just accept the true spiritual lust by worshiping the Cupid of Vrindavan, Ajo Vrindavaner Ananga. Then he will shoot your spiritual body full of his flower arrows. Yeah. Jahar kusuma-sare tava nitya-kalebare. And you will thereby become filled to the brim with eternal, ecstatic love for him. Okay, that's good news. Yat hobe prema antaranga. Okay, today we have a whole band with us, whole backup music group. Okay, trouble is, first verse is 3 lines. So the first line is kind of, I don't know how you're supposed to sing it. I think without the first line. Mana Tumi Bhalobasa Kamer Mana Tumi Bhalobasa Kamer jada-kama parihari suddha-kama seba kori jada-kama parihari suddha-kama bistaraho aprakrta ranga bistaraho aprakrta ranga anitya, jadiya, kama, santi-hina, abisrama, anitya, kama, tahe, pipasar, ranga, tahe, pipasar, ranga, tahe, pipasar, yo Charitamrita micha-kama, Tumi, Yeah, maybe I don't want to go through again with all the Bengali this time. But the last verse, Charo tobe micha-kam, how...
Excuse me, Guru Maharaj. I apologize. We can't hear you, most probably because of the microphone was saturated with the sound of bhajans, so it's still in like a low level mode. So maybe if you can maybe increase the volume on your laptop or something, if possible.
Oh, yeah. Is this better now?
Yes.
Yes, now it's okay, Guru Maharaj. Now it's fine.
I don't know why it was set so low, actually, but okay. Okay. I was going to say, Charo tobe micha-kam, how Tumi satya-kama, Bhajo Brindavaner Ananga, which reminds me. Yeah, this it's nice distinction being made. Material lust, micha-kama, and satya-kama is translated here as true spiritual lust. And in the Bhagavatam, canto, well, it comes more than once. It comes in the 7th canto, chapter 1, and also in the 10th canto that Shukadev Goswami is saying that one can be purified, one can approach the Lord through all sorts of moods. He even includes bhaya, fear, and the example is kamsa. And kama is included, and the example is the gopis. That the gopis have, the word kama is, as I said, you can translate it as desire in general, or lust more specifically. But in that sense of lust, we can even approach the Lord. And here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making this distinction, micha-kama and satya-kama. He's not saying kama and prema, he's saying micha-kama and satya-kama. So I just find that interesting, this different terminology, if you like. Yeah, we were talking about language. Some of you maybe saw and heard discussion I had with my previous professor, Keith Ward. Yeah, we kind of got off on that subject of language and interpretation, and whether language is adequate to communicate. Well, that was maybe tangential, but how do we understand language about God in particular, about spiritual reality, spiritual truth, and the fact that language can be interpreted in so many and a number of different ways, and that the nature of language is that it can be understood in many different ways. And I was just pointing out that indeed the Bhagavatam is poetry, and poetry is like that. It gives suggestion. If we'd had maybe more time, I might have explained to him about the Bhagavatam in particular. We may have talked about this, that Jiva Goswami says it's has three ways of teaching. It can teach as a Prabhu, as a master, as a mitra, as a friend, or as a priya, as a beloved. And the priya is associated especially with poetry. Mitra is like Puranas, which is also poetry, but it's pretty kind of straightforward language. And then Prabhu is more like Dharma Shastra, do like this, don't do like that. But the Bhagavatam gives it all in a very sweet way, because the Bhagavatam gives it all in the form of narratives. Another thing I was thinking about this afterward, it's always in a conversation like that, I was thinking, oh, I could have said X, Y, Z. I should have said, and I didn't. A lot of things I was maybe wanting to disagree with in his understanding, but I was being deferential as senior professor and so on. And wasn't anything wrong he was saying, but I felt some of it, is maybe not the whole picture. But anyway, it came to my mind on this point of communication of ultimate reality, that the vision of Srila Vyasadeva seems to happen without words. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apasyat purusam purnam mayam chatat apashayam. Apasyat, he saw, doesn't say he heard, doesn't say he read. He wasn't reading about the absolute truth or whatever, but it says that he saw. It was a vision. And yeah, that's just something to think about. There's all the Bhagavatam is elaborating on his vision, but the vision itself, at least the way it's described, was silent. There was no language involved. Then on the other side, I was thinking of Lord Brahma in the Brahma Gita. The first 20-something verses are describing the spiritual world in a very tantric sort of way, like a yantra, and describing the process of creation. Describing how the Lord creates by his glance and so on. And then start the prayers of Lord Brahma, or it describes that he realized he in his case, what was it? He heard Krishna's flute. And I haven't looked at this for a while, which comes first, but I think he hears the flute first and then he hears the mantra. Or is it that he hears the mantra and then the flute? We'll have to look it up. Maybe someone can do that. Probably Avadhuta Rai will find it if he's with us. He's So anyway, there's hearing of the flute, and flute is, well, is it language? Someone may say, yeah, it's the original language. Yeah, actually, my professor said that. He made that point toward the end, that he appreciates music in particular as communication. Yeah, maybe we should close. Okay, what am I? I'm just rambling again. Yeah, so micha-kama and satya-kama. Two types of kama described here, or as I mentioned before, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's kama and there's prema. And the example is given of kama being like iron and prema like gold. One can say they're both metals, so they're the same. Same? Well, in some respect, they're the same. But in important ways, they're radically different. And if someone comes with, half a kilo of iron and a half a kilo of gold, says, which would you prefer? Take whichever one you want. You can't have both, take what you want. Probably most of us would go for the gold. So prema is that gold. That's what we are interested in. And that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakura is interested in. So he's praying to his mind, you've been faithfully rendering service to this mundane lust. And what's been the result? It hasn't given you or me anything substantial. Tumi, seba, jada, se toma bhajite nare. Rather, it simply burns my entire body. Dukkha, jale, jvala, jale, binoder anga. Binoder anga. It's describing his body as binoder anga, a body of vinoda, of pleasure, of pastimes. Interesting. Charo tabe micha-kama, how Tumi satya-kama. So here's where this line comes. Just give up, charo, all your false material lust, micha-kama. And just accept how Tumi satya-kama. Just accept the true spiritual lust. How? Bhajo Vrindavanir Ananga. By worshiping the Cupid of Vrindavan, which brings us to Manashiksha of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, verse number 2. Nadharmam Shutigana Niruktam Kilakuru Raje Radha Krishna Prachara Paricharyam Ihatanu Sachisunum Nandishvarapatisu Tattve Guruvaram Sachisunum Nin. I had this before. It's always when you're on stage. Sachisunum Varapati-suttatve guruvaram Mukunda prishtatve smaraparamajasram nanumana. Indeed, he's again advising the mind, do not perform any pious acts prescribed in the Vedas and supporting literature, or sinful acts forbidden in them. Staying here in Vraja, please perform profuse service to Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Prachura means profuse, means a lot. Prachura paricharyam, service. To Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna prachura paricharyam. Iha, here, suggesting Raghunath Das Goswami, he is in Vrindavan. He's not saying go to Vrindavan. Prahlad Maharaj was advising his father in Prabhupada's translation of the verse, I suggest you go to Vrindavan. The Sanskrit says go to the forest, but Prabhupada says go to Vrindavan. So Raghunath says, stay in Vrindavan. You're here now, staying in Vraja, please perform profuse service to Shri Shri Radha Krishna. O mind, unceasingly remember the son of Shachi as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Shachi sunum nandishvarapati suttatve, and Sri Guru as the dearest servant of Lord Mukunda. Sachi sunum nandishvarapati suttatve guruvaram Mukunda preshtatve smaraparamajasram nanumana. Smara means imperative, remember. Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 7, I think. How does he say? Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu mam anusmara yudhya cha. Therefore, because just before this he says, whatever your consciousness is, your attention at the time of death, there you will go. Therefore, he says, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all time, or in all times. In every moment, you could also take it. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhya cha. Two things at once. Krishna is telling Arjuna to do two things. At first, he's telling him to fight. Just get up and fight. But now he's doubling the challenge. He says, get up and fight and think of me. And someone may say, well, I have a one-track mind. I can only think of one thing at a time. But Krishna's saying, no, you're going to have to make it a two-track mind. But actually, it's not two-track, it's one-track, because you'll be thinking of Krishna if you're doing your fighting, your service, whatever it is, for Krishna. That will be thinking of Krishna. But the word is anusmara. But what I wanted to say is, it just now struck me that the word smara is also meaning Cupid. Yes, Kamadeva is also known as Smara. Interesting. Well, in any case, there's micha-kama and there's satya-kama. And the way we get the satya-kama, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, is Bhaja Vrindavanir Ananga. So nice. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome again, everyone who has joined us over the last half hour. We're broadcasting. I always remember when I was a kid, you'd hear that on the television, see it on the television. We are broadcasting from downtown Denver or whatever. So we're broadcasting not from downtown Denver, we're broadcasting from Lower Silesia, high in the hills of Lower Silesia, 600 to 700 meters high.
High mountain. Very high.
So we have some show and some tell and some show and tell. And before I invite Hemangi Gopi and Sugopi Tungavidya, I have a show and tell, which is very short. And that is, I just received as a gift this very nice pot, which is, the pot was made by Rameshwar in, what's that town he lives in? Legnica. He is our Polish potter. Yakshamovi potter.
Garncarz.
Garncarz. And then it's been painted by Polish Kaveri Mataji, who is here on the farm near Shantipur. And it's very elaborately painted. You can see it has all kinds of ornamentation on it. And the cow, of course. Her husband is the cowherd here. So I won't tell you what's inside this pot. Something nice. Yes, I've just finished my show and tell. No, what I wanted to say is that a couple of things. One is I think about clay pots a bit recently because we're talking about Vedanta, and clay pots feature quite a bit in Vedantic discourse. Clay and clay pots, and what is the relationship between clay and clay pots? But the other thing is that there is skill and there is talent involved in making such a pot, in painting. And both of these can be learned. Oh, is the Swami telling us now we should all become potters? No. What
Painters?
Painters? No. What we're saying is that whatever your talents are, you can develop them. We all have some little talents, bigger talents, and we can develop them. Yeah, well, that's a bigger subject, but I think let's proceed. And I think, Hemangi Gopi, you had something?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, God family. So happy to be with all of you. I don't have anything to show, but I have something to tell, which I found very inspiring actually, and I think could be also inspiring for some of you. So since I'm doing my researching now, I'm about to do some interviews with some very prominent peace activists, like religious leader and something like that. So every week I'm meeting one colleague of mine, and we together are just doing all these academic pre-activities, for example, like data collection, literature review, different type of questions. So we are analyzing, preparing ourselves for this thing. And then a couple of weeks ago, so I was also attending this amazing Sanga, and I hear from Audarya Chandrika when she was sharing this thing about attentive listening. So I asked her to send me that recording. So then I went through that couple of times, and then I realized this is so amazing and this could be very helpful for my researching. And then when I met my colleague, so we also start about these theoretical academic things. So I told her, today I have something special. I have some really special recording, and then I find it very useful, and I do believe that it could be also useful for your researching. So I let her to listen all the recording, and she was like, oh, some saints are someone is talking, someone is listening for 7 days, how that could be. And like I said, this one friend of mine, she's actually combining her professional career and also her spiritual practice, and it's really amazing tip which we are trying to pose our mind, try to listen, and then connecting, hearing and listening and all these things. And then my colleague said, wow, this is so amazing. This is really so amazing. This can not only be useful for our researching, but also for our life, for improve our relationship with our family and all other relationships. So can you please send me this recording? I also want to listen every day and really use it as a tool for improving my relationship. So I did it. It was really amazing experience that also from this Sangha, from this gathering, from this knowledge which Audarya Chandrika selflessly shared with us, that also go around and also help someone else to improve relationship with, with herself, with her studies, and with all other relationships she is surrounded with. So yes, I found that very inspiring. And then I also sent some message to Audarya Chandrika to tell her and to thank her. And then she also gave me another tip. She said, also pay attention, maybe when you are hungry or you are very tired or something is maybe with your body, that something it hurts you, that could be, you know, distracting for you. So pay attention on that. So that also inspired me to see and to think, to contemplate about my relationship with Lord, whether also that distracting me to serve and to be really attentive listener or servant. So yes, this is the question and this is the task on which I really need to work a lot, but this really opens so many inspiring ideas for contemplation and for practice more, for really also eagerness to improve this relationship with the Lord, with the holy name, and also with the all devotees. So I also in this way would like to thank Audarya Chandrika, first to thank you, Maharaj, because you inspired her, and then to thank her because of selflessly shared with us and also help some other people around to improve their ability to communicate better. So this is for this time. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. We just saw Emangi, Gopi, and I were both participating in a conference yesterday as also Bhakta, I don't know if we can call him Bhakta Frivoye.
Yeah. something.
Yes, we had this 3-day conference called Sacred Journeys. It's a very nice group of scholars around the world. And Rivoy presented on about the practice of parikrama around Govardhan, and in particular, the Dandavat parikrama practice. And he prepared a very nice short film about Govardhan and the Dandavat parikrama. And people were very fascinated with that. I gave a talk, a short, these are all very short talks, but I talked about Navadvip as a replication of Raja. And let's see, maybe I'll develop that into an article.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was very nice. And actually, what I realized about Hervai's presentation, that all these scholars are mostly amazed with his personal experience he shared.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Everybody asked him about it. And
Yeah,
that's really amazing. Yes, yes.
Yeah, because he said he tried himself to do Dandavat parikrama. He did for a few hours each day for a few days. So they want to know, what was this like? Yeah.
Yes, yes. They are really nice people. They also told me in the beginning, maybe yesterday, because before yesterday, it was departure day of Bhaktivinoda Maharaj. So I was like celebrating Tirubhava. So I was attending that. So I was not able to attending. But yesterday they told me that I told that I'm also researching peace and somehow how pilgrimage can contribute to that. So they told me, you have this one, this, that scientist, you contact me, we will help you. So they are so friendly and so nice experience. Yeah.
They're a very nice group. And one of the leaders of the group, Ian McIntosh from Australia, was saying that he met the devotees, the Hare Krishnas, in Australia so many years ago, I guess when he was studying. And he always appreciated their prasadam.
Yes. He also said that he read Prabhupada's books, that he was also very inspired. And
did he say that? Yeah.
Yes, he said that. He said, I read some of Prabhupada's books and I'm very inspired. And he also said, when you were presenting this replica of Vrindavan in Hungary, then he said, oh, this Shivaram Swami is such an impressive person that I would like to meet him.
Yeah.
Also
yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see what Sugopi has for us.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. So as you have been telling about the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have been hearing from you. So I prepared a PowerPoint some time back, and I would like to share that. Please see, share screen. It's from verse 120 of chapter 7. So in 120, it is about Mayavada philosophy, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling that this philosophy is actually going to make people quite away from the spirituality, basic path of spirituality, because they will be thinking themselves as Lord. And that's what I made a flow chart, kind of a flow chart. So it starts with Mayavada philosophy, what it is about and what it's leading to. Like like the people become like, they think that they are insignificant living entities. They think that they are the Lord. And this covers the glory of the supreme supremacy of the Lord. Like the supreme, nobody really understands if there is supreme Lord is there, because they think themselves as Lord. So that's like Mayavada think that they can become Lord themselves at one point. Even the Swamis there, they say themselves as walking Krishna or walking Vishnu or Lord themselves. So, and the result of that is that there is no non-existence of Supreme Personality. There is no Lord, Supreme Lord. There is a creator, which is again, delusion leads to delusion, and then Jiva Tattva being equal to Supreme Lord. Then atheistic, that is like theistic is to follow that there is Supreme God, but then this atheistic philosophy, this is completely atheistic. And then finally, the life mission is unfulfilled. Like I could recollect this Bhagavad Gita verse 12.5, that klesho adhiktaras tesham avyakta asakta chetasam, that there's so much of pain, klesha, and difficulty for whom they don't realize the Lord. So, and that's going to take them completely into delusion. And how this can be like countered is given in the purport by Prabhupada, is that chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And I could recollect these verses in 11th canto, 5th chapter, 32, it has a verse like where it is described that Krishna Varnam, like taking the names of Krishna, what happens, like one is, in the age of Kali, intelligent people perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. So although his complexion is, then the complexion of Krishna is described in this verse. So how chanting of Krishna can really take us near to Lord Krishna, that's given in this verse. And the verse 12.3.51 is again like quite appropriate in the way that there's like chanting Lord Krishna's name is again going to deliver us. And it is the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga, that Kaler Doshe Nidhi Rajan Asti Eka Mahan Guna Kirtanya Iva Krishnasya Mukta Sanga Param Brajhet. So, and then deliverance, it is there in Bhagavad Gita 14.6, that Mam cha avicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunata. Like one is delivered when one is serving Krishna in a way. So this is just a flow chart. What's the purport of Prabhupada, what Prabhupada has given. But again, he also gives another counter that, but what happens? But we know that there is Supreme Lord who is potent and the personality of Godhead. And everything is emanation of his energy. The first verse of Bhagavatam itself, Janma Adi, like all the creations, everything happened from him. And then I could recollect this verse 7.7, where Krishna says, Mat parataram na anyat kinchit asti dhananjaya, that there is nothing beyond me. And the he's present in every atom in a way that he says, Aham sarvasya prabhava mat sarva pravartate iti matva bhajante man buddha bhava samanvita. And then that concludes to the point that Jiva Tattva is equal to the energy of the Lord. And the Vishnu Purana verse is there in the purport. And then this Bhagavad Gita 15.7 verse, which says that Mama eva amsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashashtani indriyani gat. So everyone is my portion, Mama eva amsha. So this, I made a flowchart of the verse so that for easy understanding, recollecting few of the verses. And that's what I wanted to share.
Very nice, thank you. Whoops, it went away again. Yeah, I like this because it's a nice example of, you've put it in the form of a, as you said, a flow chart. It gives us a nice idea of how one can make a diagram of, in this case, it's just one verse and one purport. It could be a series of verses. It could be, you know, whatever size you want. You can make, you can organize into some sort of clear sequence of ideas. So it becomes very helpful. As you said, it can help us to remember the points. And it also highlights the substance of the point. So something I would encourage everyone to do. It's one way to actively read. Instead of passively reading, you can actively read. Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Gopi.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's by all your inspiration and blessings.
It's interesting. The one verse you mentioned on the toward the bottom right, from the 11th canto, this Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna Sango Pangastra Parshadam. That's the very first verse of Srila Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha, which means it's the first verse of the Shat Sandarbhas, the entire 6 Sandarbhas. So he's putting that right in the beginning because it's very important. And he's identifying that it's describing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna. Yeah, and there's a whole discussion to analyze just that one verse. So very good. Anyone else have something you wanted to share today?
Here is Avadhuta Roy Das. My obeisance to your lotus feet.
Yeah.
If you give me 3 minutes, something like that. With your permission,
3 minutes.
Share. Something like that.
Something.
I did some quote mining on Chintamani, so I would like maybe to share that if you allow.
I didn't quite hear.
I did
Harinama
quote mining on Chintamani.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we were talking about that last time. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita we just read. This is not so philosophical, but I made notes, but Chintamani is so pure, it is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that by its touch makes everything else pure. And the opposite of that is when, of course, some dirty thing makes other things impure. Of course, Chintamani never becomes impure. That's why the Chintamani is so amazing. So what I was a little bit looking in the Shastra is which things are Chintamani? Pure things influence other things to become pure. And the first thing I would come up with is the Holy Dham, of course. In the Holy Dham, Holy Dham is like a touchstone. The land is made of touchstone and the water is nectar. The trees in Vrindavan are wish-fulfilling trees. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I did remember one story I heard not so long ago, that once Lokanath Swami one of the Goswamis, I mean, he did send Narottam Das Thakur to bring some dust. He wanted to take bath. And then 3 days, after 3 days, Narottam Das Thakur came back. And Lokanath Swami was asking, why did you took so long to bring some dust? And then Narottam Das Thakur said, well, I was all over the holy dham of Vraja, but everything is Chintamani, there is no any dust. So I had to go to Agra. But I don't know further the story, sorry. Anyway, according to Krishna's desire, some of his associates perceive the quality of Vrindavana as being composed of touchstone and jewels. Others cannot. The more one's eyes are opened with the transcendental knowledge of Vrindavana, the more one will experience and appreciate Chintamanidam, Shri Vrindavana. Srila Prabhupada's purport, I noted here down. There is no parallel to Krishna's childhood pastimes exhibited at Vrajabhumi, which are the prototypes of his eternal affairs in the original Krishna Loka, described as Chintamanidama in the Brahma Samhita. Then the interesting analogy I did find, what is Chintamani? Actually are the Surabhi cows. Surabhi cows are also like Chintamani jewels because they also fulfill the desires of the devotees to attain devotion to Krishna. And then the other Chintamani jewel-like thing is love for Krishna. And the Prabhupada in the purport also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he writes, the 5 rasas exist eternally and are also compared to metals like copper, bell metal, silver, gold, and touchstone. And I did find a very interesting conversation between Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I will read it out. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what is the most valuable thing in the world? The reply was, he who has love for Radha Krishna possesses the most valuable jewel and the greatest riches. So Prabhupada in one sentence he writes, the process of Krishna consciousness is like a transcendental touchstone. Then other touchstone-like thing, I did find that there is a Sanskrit saying about poetry. I don't know the pronunciation, but I will read out. Gadyam kavinam nikasham vadanti. Prose is the touchstone of poets. And there was a beautiful shloka I did find. Prabodhananda Saraswati is the crown jewel of all the great souls in the entourage of Lord Gauranga. He is the crown jewel of clever petitioners who offer divine golden and Chintamani jewel-like prayers. So the poetry actually very much changes the consciousness. And we can remember this pastime of Lord Chaitanya, for example. He was repeating one mundane poetry, and when Rupa Goswami heard, and also Swarup Damodar, only they could understand that actually that poetry reminds Lord Chaitanya on the meeting of Radha Krishna at Kurukshetra. So actually, I also remembered in that connection, I mean about the poetry, that Srila Prabhupada recommends that devotees learn some nice shlokas, and at the time of difficulties they can recite those shlokas. And it is actually in the commentary in the story about Gajendra. When he struggled a lot, then he at one point he remembered what did he learn from his spiritual master. Nice prayers. And when did he recite it? When he did recite those prayers, Lord, I think it was Prishnigarva, immediately came. He immediately came. So Prabhupada recommends all devotees should learn some nice shlokas, and it will, of course, help our consciousness to become better. And then other Chintamani jewel-like thing is the holy name. There is that shloka Nama Chintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, and the whole book of Bhaktivinoda Thakura is also called Harinama Chintamani. And I did find a very nice prayer or statement by Shivaram Swami. I did note down, it's very interesting, poetical. The most wonderful ornament of Radha's neck is invisible, for it resides like a Chintamani gem within her throat. It is the constant vibration of Krishna's names, which also appear on her tongue. So it is very nice. There are some other things about the holy name. Let me see. The deity form of the Lord appears before the eyes, and the name form appears on the tongue and from the throat. In this way, the devotee can feel this Chintamani gem in all of their senses and become blessed. This is from Jiva Goswami, one interesting quote. And then just a few more things.
Just
maybe
a few.
Maybe I should not. I should stop. I don't know.
I think we get the general idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so Chintamani refers to the holy Dham, the holy name, poetry, Radha and Krishna's path in many ways. But all of this is not solving my problem, which I mentioned last time, which is we don't have any experience of what's being described as Chintamani. And the whole purpose of an analogy is to illustrate with something that one has experience of in order to get some idea about something we don't have experience of. And that's not really the case with Chintamani. Nevertheless, I think it's in the purport, Prabhupada gives an analogy for the analogy, that the sun and the sunlight, or the heat of the sun. So he's giving an analogy which also Jiva Goswami uses to make the point he's making is that the source, namely Brahman, does not change when the energy from the source changes. A very simple point, but the analogy is, well, it's interesting and a little strange. Before we go into that more, though, with Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vrindapati has something to say about Mirabai merged. It said, I heard from someone. That's a good start. I heard from someone that Mirabai merged into Brahman because she was in competition with Srimati Radharani. Why is her story so variegated when there were so many Vaishnava biographies at her time? and was she a disciple of Jiva Goswami? And then I heard from someone that Gaur Govindamar said that she misinterpreted the concept of spiritual kama. What can I say to all of this? Yes to all of the above, no to all of the above, and maybe to all of the above. I don't know. What I can say is that what is told about Mirabai is very much in the category of legend. We don't have, but that's true of all of these, all of the saints, the acharyas. We have a lot of legends. The more we go back in time, the more creative the legends may become. There's been a lot of creativity around the story of Mirabai. And there's a lot of creativity also in songs attributed to her, which is to say, there are collections of songs that say, the signature line is Mirabai, but that doesn't mean they're actually composed by her, same as with Surdas. We talked about that. And the same is very much true of Kabir. Kabir is another, he's considered a so-called Nirgun Bhakta. And that's a whole nother world in itself. But yeah, a lot of these, especially oral traditions, become extremely fluid. And so to say this is how it was for sure 400 years ago, 500 years ago. All we can say is there is a tradition that, as you say, she merged into Brahman because she was in competition with Radharani. Yeah, sounds possible. Why not? Why is her story so variegated when there were so many Vaishnava biographies at her time? Well, again, the Vaishnava biographies in her time. Okay, one reason is she was particularly popular, and I would say it's because of her background and maybe also combined with the fact that she was a woman. There was something special about the fact that she was a Rajputani, a princess. So being of royalty and apparently renouncing all of her privilege in order to worship Krishna. And then all of the tensions that apparently were there in the family because of her. So we get the story of the attempts to poison her and so on. It's all very dramatic, and it's all, there's a certain kind of plausibility. And then the simple devotion of the songs, which are some of them actually from her, some attributed to her, especially to Giridhari. They're inspiring, and there's a certain pathos there, I would say, because of her context, because of her situation and the apparent persecution that she experienced. This relation with Jiva Goswami, that's, I think, rather legendary, but who knows? There's probably the Gaudiya Vaishnavas say that she was a disciple of Jiva Goswami. Because that's how Gaudiya Vaishnavas want to think of Mirabai. And there's no harm in that. But I don't think we can say anything more definite than that about her. And misinterpreting of spiritual kama, I think we'd want to hear something more what he was saying. Best person to ask would be Madhavananda Prabhu in Puri. He knows very well all the teachings of Gaur Govinda Maharaj, his Guru Maharaj. Yeah, sorry, I can't say anything more definite about Mirabai, but that's it. And then we have from, Vrindapati, I wanted to ask you, maybe just here we can ask. I mentioned, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, there's a verse which I couldn't find a source for. And I'm wondering if you know in your circle with the Sri Vaishnavas and whoever, maybe there's some pundits that you could ask to source this particular verse if I send it to you.
Yes, please, Guruj. Yeah, if you send it to me, let me know. I can research it, or I can ask the pundits if they know, if they have any.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And then we have from Chittakarni. A question from Andre Yuvaraj. He asked me why Krishna is hiding the clothes of the gopis. And when I gave the answer, I couldn't really answer. How come just by seeing them without their saris can be considered as their prayers of becoming the wife of Krishna is granted? Because just by seeing them cannot be considered as becoming husband. How this pastime can be explained clearly? Hare Krishna. Yeah, the explanation, as I understand it, is simply that this is traditional Indian, we might say Vedic culture, that the only man to see a woman naked should be the husband. And so if a man sees a woman naked, that would be, in some sense, a way of understanding, so they must be married. So it's a little bit it's Krishna's being playful. He's just a small boy, and these are small girls. And in their childliness, they're wishing Krishna to be their husband. And Krishna is reciprocating, as Krishna promises in the Gita. He reciprocates with everyone. But many times, I think we could probably all think of experiences ourselves when we have some desire that we would like Krishna to fulfill. And then he fulfills, but not in the way we expect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, always. Almost.
Always. So this is what Krishna's doing here also. He's kind of playing, he's having fun. He's saying, oh, you want me to be your husband? Okay. So then he steals away their clothes and okay, now I'm your husband. Ha ha ha.
Krishna never give completely, always a little bit.
Well, he gives to the degree that we surrender. That's
Yeah. And the gopis were praying to goddess Durga. They weren't actually praying to Krishna.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but Krishna hears the prayer, and well, that's another point. Be careful, you're worshiping some demigod, thinking, I won't tell this to Krishna, so I'll get what I want. But Krishna may, he'll overhear the prayer. And he'll say, okay, so that's what you want. Well, let's see what we can do.
Because Andrei Yuvaraj is saying that, but mommy, this is not a very good joke. You can't hide the clothes of the girl. and these are very challenging questions, actually.
Yeah.
And the age of 10, and he's always in the internet searching, reading the pastimes of Krishna and asking me so many challenging questions. And now I understand that I have to really go into very deep of these pastimes, because he's just pointing out.
Yes.
What is strange.
A lot of, as I've said many times, the pastimes of Krishna described in 10th canto are very much, we can say, condensed. And then Jiva Goswami and Kavi Karnapura and others, they elaborate. So Jiva Goswami and his Gopal Champu in particular. And so you may find interesting explanations there also. He's elaborating, and by that, he's also in effect commenting on the Bhagavatam.
Sorry, Guru Maharaj, can you repeat again which article or book do you?
This is a book.
Yes, which book?
Called Gopala Champu.
Gopala Champu. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Rajali Lavati is asking, what was this conference? It's called Sacred Journeys, and some subtitle, I don't remember. Next year, they're planning to have the conference in Piran in Slovenia. Hopefully, because now the last 2 years it's been online, and they originally planned to have it in Piran. Then they decided the second time, okay, we'll do it in Piran. Oh no, it's got to be online. Okay, third time, we'll do it in Piran. Who's organizing it? It's some scholars, I forget, there's a little institute, but it's, University of Indiana and maybe Purdue University, something like that. And then there's a journal of pilgrimage studies that's based in College of William and Mary in Virginia. So like that. Okay, what else? Oh, Dira Lalita, 2 questions. Oh, now we're getting to our subject. In Chaitanya Charitamrita 127, Prabhupada purport, Jiva Goswami said that actually Shankaracharya didn't understand the Vedanta Sutra, and he falsely explained Vivartavada and Parinamavada. Did Lord Krishna make Shankaracharya confused on purpose in the way that he understood Vedanta Sutra wrongly? Was that the Lord's plan? Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was confused what his action should be in the battle of Kurukshetra. But Lord Krishna was there for Arjuna, but he wasn't there for Shankaracharya to help him understand Vedanta Sutra. I think we have to ask Shankaracharya about this. If anyone can find him. Shankaracharya, yeah, I can just picture it now on one of these talk shows. Now that would be interesting if somebody wants to do a little creative writing. Make a talk show in which Shankaracharya appears as the person being interviewed. Yeah, Oprah Winfrey is asking Shankaracharya, so what were you actually doing? Were you confused or what? Did Krishna set you up? You agreed to do this for Krishna? So, you know, you're all asking me questions that I can't answer. One thing it reminds me of, though, is an interesting question I found in an introduction to a translation of one of the Acharya's followers of Madhvacharya, which is, I don't remember the name, but a very strong refutation of Shankara. And the translator in his introduction is raising the question. He says, let us assume that both Shankaracharya and Madhvacharya, or in this case, it may have been Vyasatirtha, that both of them are writing based on their genuine realizations. They've actually realized the absolute reality, Brahman. And here's Shankara, and he's saying it's all uno. And here's Madhva and his followers, and they're saying it's two, not one. Famously, he's sitting like this. So how do we understand that? They're both seeing. I think there's a simple answer, though. And the simple answer is that Krishna reciprocates with everyone. Shankara wants to see one, he gets one. Buddha wants to see zero, he gets zero. And Madhva wants to see two, he sees two. But it's all Krishna. And Krishna's not attached. You want to see me this way, that way. Second question, what Shastra can Vaishnavas use to defeat Mayavada philosophy, knowing that they don't accept Puranas, but the Upanishads? Yeah, well, this is interesting question because, of course, we accept the Bhagavatam and they will say, oh, but that's a Purana and we don't accept the Puranas. But Jiva Goswami argues in the Tattva Sandarbha that this is not just Purana. He makes it equal in status to Shruti. And so what you might do is start there and see how he's arguing. I can't give you details now, but how he's arguing for the Srimad Bhagavatam as the authority. And then if someone can follow that argument, they can at least maybe be opened up to the idea, okay, maybe this Bhagavad Purana is special. And then you go from there. Otherwise, well, Madhvacharya and his followers have written very strongly various works arguing against Mayavada. But one particular book that I could recommend, at this point, nothing comes to mind. We have our own acharyas, but Jiva Goswami, this is interesting that in the very beginning, verse number 6 of Tattva Sandarbha, it's part of his invocation, and he says basically this book, what I'm writing, is for the devotees. It's for those who are seriously aiming for pure devotional service. And he says anyone else who's reading this book, let them be cursed. He doesn't care about them. So he's saying in the beginning, I'm not actually trying to convert Mayavadis. Let them have their Mayavad. I'm just giving strength to the Vaishnavas. And where is this coming from? It's all in the Bhagavatam. So if one doesn't accept the Bhagavatam, there's no hope. That's, I think, what Jiva Goswami would say.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, well, we have more from, we have lots of things. Radha Kripa Kataksha, Chandrika. Yeah, personalism. Yeah, that question about Brahman and Srimati Rani. I don't know what to think about that myself. You can see it as a punishment. Oh, she wants to compete with Radharani. Go merge with Brahma. I guess that would be one way to understand. Gosh, time. I wanted to, let's try sharing screen. And well, let's just look quickly at some of the of our passage in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's move this up here. No, can't move this away. There. Yeah, we came to this analogy. Although a touchstone produces many varieties of valuable jewels, it nevertheless remains the same. It does not change its original form. That I said before, I have little trouble with that analogy as an analogy. And maybe that's because we're in the age of Kali and we don't have Chintamani stones lying around in our possession. If, this is verse 127, if there is such inconceivable potency in material objects, why should we not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Okay, this is a rhetorical question. And it's also, I would say, it's the analogy, so it's going from what's familiar to what's not familiar. But there's something else, and that is kaimutya nyaya, the logic of kim uta, the logic of what to speak of. That if you have something small, then the small is included in the great. if X is the case, then how much more will Y be the case? So if inconceivable potency is there in material objects, and we're looking for an analogy for that, Prabhupada will say, well, take the example of the sun. Why should we not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So that is a certain kind of reasoning which may or may not be accepted by someone. In this case, someone will say, a skeptic might say, well, we can't make that analogy because God is of a completely different category. So you're trying to make a case based on this idea of potency of an object, how much more it must be for Krishna. So the skeptic may say, well, I don't really go with that analogy. But an analogical reasoning is very traditional with respect to understanding God. And we see it in the Christian medieval tradition, late medieval, the scholastic philosophers like Thomas Aquinas, they were very keen on this idea of analogy. To say that God is good, for example, they say, well, you know, good. I mean, what is our experience of good? Somebody is good, but tomorrow they're not good. So they say it's analogically to understand. So we have some idea of goodness. Now multiply that by infinity, and you can get some idea what would be the goodness of God. But of course, you won't be able to conceive that because it's infinite. And we are finite. And so you'll not be able to actually comprehend the goodness of God. But you can still, at least to try to talk about him, you can say, like the good of this world, someone is good, so God is infinitely good. So that's the analogy. Now I'm going to just make a big jump over the purport, except to point out that again, Prabhupada is quoting the first sutra of Vedanta Sutra, and then he's pointing to the first verse of the Bhagavatam, Janmadyasya yaton vayadi taratas charte shamitya sura. And here we get Prabhupada's, is he giving a full translation? No. He says, I meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, the transcendental reality who is the primeval cause of all causes, from whom all manifested universes arise, in whom they dwell, and by whom they are destroyed. I meditate upon that eternally effulgent Lord, who is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and yet is fully independent. Okay, he's translating just the first line of the 4 lines of the first verse. I just point this out because it's so important. This sutra is so important, and then the expansion of it in the first verse of the Bhagavatam is so important. And then the whole Bhagavatam is an expansion of this one verse, in effect. And again, not much time, but I'm going to stop this and go again to something else. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, this is it. Okay. I found on the Internet Archive, you can see the link here if you want to find it yourself, of a translation. It looks like it's a complete English translation of Baladev Vidyabhushana's commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And who has done this translation is not identified, which is really strange, considering that the style of the translation is very much of an ISKCON devotee. It refers repeatedly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the person, whoever did it, does not identify himself, which is interesting, but it looks like good translation. So, you know. Yeah. Okay, so I looked at his commentary, of Baladev's commentary to this sutra, Janmadhyasya Taha, and it's quite extensive commentary. And I just want to point to this section of that commentary because I'm a little bit thinking about this subject of hermeneutics, of interpretation, which we talked about with Professor Ward. And this is a kind of standard statement. It's actually originating from the Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa philosophy. Upakramopaksamhara abhyaso apurvata palam artavadopapaticha lingam tatparya nirnaye. So this is giving 6 signs how to interpret a passage of Vedic literature. It's kind of, you can expand or contract. That means theoretically you can use this to just understand one single verse, or you could use it to understand a chapter in a book, Bhagavatam, or you can use it to interpret a canto or the whole Bhagavatam. And Jiva Goswami uses it in his Sandarbhas to identify the meaning of the Bhagavatam. So, but what I found interesting, okay, here are the 6 things. There's the upakrama, the beginning, the upasamhara, the ending, abhyasa, what is repeated again and again, apurvata, what is unique and novel, palam, the general purpose of the book, artavada, the author's statement of his own intention, and upapatti, the appropriateness of that last one is a little strange, but I think we get explanation. So then what he does is he gives us an example of how you could apply these. And as a test case, he takes 2 verses from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, famous verses. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya Samanam Vriksha Parishashvajate Tayor Anya Pipalam Svadvatyanashnam Anyo Vichacha Anyo Chakashiti. Okay. this is about the two birds in the tree, the analogy. And the second part of this, samane rikshe purusho nimagno, anishaya sochati muhyamana jushtam yada pashati anyam isham asya mahimanam iti vita shoka. When the one bird busy eating notices the other bird, then, which is the Lord, then he'll become free from his suffering. All his anxieties are gone. Okay, so then he am I going to be able, yeah. Okay, maybe this will work. So then he takes this and applies these 6 principles. So the upakrama, what's the upakrama? Dva suparna, there are 2 birds. Okay. See if that works. Upasamhara, the ending. Anyam isham, the other person who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The abhyasa, the repeated feature, is the word anya, the other person. As in the phrases, tayor anyo, ashnan, the other person does not eat, and anyam isham, he sees the other person who is the Supreme Lord. Then the apurvata, the unique feature, is the difference between the Supreme Lord and the individual spirit soul, which could never have been understood without the revelation of Vedic scripture. The palam is the general purpose, is vita shoka. The individual spirit soul becomes free from suffering by seeing the Lord. And the artavada, the author's statement of his own intention, is mahimanam eti, one who understands the Supreme Lord becomes glorious. The upapatti, appropriateness, is anya anashan. The other person, the Supreme Lord, does not eat the fruits of material happiness and distress. So, and the whole point here, though, remember, what's the context that Baladev's giving? He's talking about janmadyasya yataha. He wants to highlight this point, that one may clearly understand the difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual spirit soul. So he's giving very careful analysis of these 2 verses from Shvetashvatara Upanishad to show how the system of hermeneutics works. And then he can use that to apply to this sutra to make his point. So that's, again, I wanted to give a little, give you more of a sense of how Vedanta works, how the discussion goes. Right after this, he'll raise an objection. He'll say, well, yes, but, and there will be some kind of objection, and then he will refute that. He'll give a reply, and he'll give a quote, and it goes sort of on and on like that. In this way, the Lord Chaitanya is trying to, he's not trying, he is penetrating through the clouds of Vedanta misunderstanding that Prakashananda and the others had, so that they will chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Well, here we are again at the end of our session, and I want to wish you all a wonderful coming several days. And if you want to do some homework, you could take, what is the next large, I don't have it in front of me just now, but whatever the next longer purport of Srila Prabhupada's, you could take that. There's 127, which is somewhat longer, but I don't know what comes after that. And take it means you can read through it and maybe do some, maybe do some diagramming of it, see what comes out from that. And maybe you'll have some questions as a result, or some realizations. So that can be very nice. Okay. I guess we'll end in that way, and I'll say thank you all very much indeed, and keep well, and chant and be happy. Okay?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru
Thank you.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Shamba. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.